I figured it was about time to do a video talking about how I shoot the B-roll footage for all of my videos. So it has recently changed. It used to be all shot using this camera dolly right here. This is home built, made at Home Depot with 4 rubber caster wheels and then this really fancy ram ball joint mount and a tripod adapter. So really solid, super solid. You can easily put a DSLR on this, whatever you need, but it does have its limitations. For one, it's a little bit too big for a lot of the products that I end up trying to shoot B-roll of, and also the wheels and the bearings on it aren't all that great, but it's moving at such low speeds, you don't really need them to be that perfect. So this has been awesome, and it's done me for 4 years. You can see there was a long time ago, there's a DIY build guide for this. I'll link it up there, but it's only still photos because I kind of took photos on the way of building this. It was a project on the way, and I wasn't really planning to do a DIY video on it, but then I decided to do one halfway through, and well, one thing led to another. Anyway, you can go check it out. It's there. It's not that great of a video, but it shows exactly how I built this, and I've used that ever since, or at least until recently. GearBest reached out and wanted to send out some products to check out, and I picked these 2 different camera dollies, and these things are basically just upgraded, higher, more refined versions of that wooden camera dolly I got, and these are what I am using now and continuing to use going forward with basically all the B-roll I shoot. I'm not really big into those carbon fiber sliders and all that fancy stuff because it's not easy to take with you, it's not quick to set up. This is the table where I shoot the talking head portion of this video, and when I want to shoot B-roll, I go sit where the camera is right now and shoot this way towards me and shoot all the B-roll. I'm in this little tiny garage. There's not a whole lot of space, so trying to set up a full-size slider or rails or anything like that is really outside the scope of what's possible. Whereas little sliders like this and little dollies are great because, well, they fold up into nothing and they basically allow you to get the same style of cinematic shot that you can get with, well, really fancy high-end gear for like 30 or 40 bucks worth of skateboard wheels and a nice little milled aluminum chassis. The other thing is that with YouTube videos, there's this status quo of video quality, and we see that with most of the stuff that gets posted to video that's first-timers and people starting out and learning. And then there's the really high up guys, the guys that do this full-time professionally, and they've got millions and millions of subscribers, and this is what they do. And they've got the mega bucks for the really fancy stuff. But if all you're trying to do is get out of this kind of pool of status quo, something like one of these sliders is a huge tool towards doing that. You don't need the gear that the big guys are using to get shots that are very close to what they can do. You can get some DIY lighting using, well, I'm using these, here, I'll show you. I use these standard kind of Home Depot work can lights. And then the trick with them is just making sure that all of the light bulbs that you put in them are all balanced so that your white balance in your room is all the same. So I shoot 5000K light bulbs in these 2 can lights, as well as the other larger light side I've got in the back. And I've also put those same 5000K light bulbs into all the overhead fixtures so that all the light color in the room is the same. And that goes a long way to making all of my videos look consistent. That's the lighting taken care of. And then it's just a matter of being really smooth and meticulous with the way you set the camera up and thinking about all your B-roll shots. I know that every time I go out and shoot B-roll, I try to make sure that the stuff I'm putting in the next video is going to be just a little bit better than the stuff I put in the last one, whether it's I try some different angles or I try and make sure that everything that I'm talking about is well shown in the B-roll shots, or changing up the background lighting to make sure that the product that I'm trying to show off is highlighted nicely, whatever it is. And then finally, well, I guess it's time we actually looked at these two sliders. The first one is just a standard camera slider. It's got 4 wheels. Now the wheels were a bit of a challenge. Okay, so they're standard skateboard wheels with some pretty good, half decent ball bearings in them, but there was mold lines on the top of the wheels. I had to take the wheels off the cart. I chucked them up in a lathe, in this case just a drill, and then I ran it and sanded them down, and finally hitting them with a little bit of polish to get them a little bit of shine back. And that just knocked off all of the ridges and the mold lines that were left on those wheels. You could, of course, also upgrade them to higher quality skateboard wheels if you wanted, but for me, just sanding them down and then polishing them on the drill lathe was fine. And now it rolls really, really nice and smoothly. Originally, with those mold lines, it would jump as it was rolling, and you'd get these kind of artifacting in the shots it was getting. So a bit of a problem there. I had the same issue with the wooden cart that I was originally shooting with. And again, it took us a little bit of time with some sandpaper and X-Acto knife to kind of get it cleaned up to the point where it worked nicely. The other dolly here, though, this is quite the cute little product. It folds up, small and compact, but when you unfold it, there's a center part, and you can hit the button and the motor turns on, and it allows you to get panning or rotating shots around whatever you're shooting automated. So you can just hit that and the motor just turns on and it drives your camera around in a circle. It doesn't work with very big cameras. It's pretty limited in what it can do. And if you want to change directions, you have to take the battery out, flip the battery around, and put it back in. So a bit of a pain to do that. There's also not an easy way to make sure that the two fold-out wheels are aligned at the same angle. So sometimes your motion is a little bit crooked or off. But besides that, it is an awesome way to get motorized motion. And motorized motion is neat if it's done correctly, because it is much, much smoother than what you can do by hand. If you shoot by hand, you are going to end up in situations where the camera's moving slower and then faster and slower. Most of the time, again, to get out of that status quo into professional looking or polished looking shots, it's more than enough. But this little guy gets it even one step further, and it is fiddly to set up, but once it's set up, the shots look awesome. Of course, you can't control things like speed, so that all the rotations are going to be one speed, but you can slow it down or speed it up in post. You can shoot with a higher frame rate and then slow it down, or you can shoot and just slow it or just speed it up in post. You want the rotation to go faster. So you do have some options there if you're a little bit creative about how you use it and how you edit with it, but pretty cool. And it's not super expensive, coming in at, I think, just over 50 or 60 bucks. And for that, it's pretty darn versatile, and you can do a lot with it. So that is what I use to shoot B-roll shots. I use the little motorized dolly whenever I can, and then when I'm looking for more specific shots and something I want more control over, I use a little aluminium-based dolly here. Like anything, these two dollies are not without their quirks, but once you use them for a while and you get used to those and how to work around their issues, they do allow you to create some very, very powerful footage. The key thing here is that you do not need to go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars on camera gear in order to get shots that are 90% as good as what that equipment would let you get. If you're a little bit creative with your stuff and how you use it, and you're careful with lighting and proper setup and stuff like that, you can do an absolute ton with very, very little. I shot on this guy here for years, and I still use it even with the slightly fancier little ball bearing gimbal or ball bearing dolly. Not a huge difference in what I can do. This one is just slightly easier to use. In the comments down below, let me know if you have a YouTube channel and if you use anything like this, or maybe even a DIY thing like this in order to help you shoot better videos. Guys, until next time, thank you very, very much for watching.